Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. So in this series we follow opening principles, middle game strategies and the endgame strategies. Today we'll talk about the psychology in chess again. Today we'll talk about the psychology of this counterattack in critical positions. So the counterattack is one of the most important things to recognize in chess because I think the counterattack has the biggest impact in critical positions. So when your opponent has played maybe an aggressive attack, one of the worst things you can do is just calculating defensive moves. That you should really avoid because you should always try to counterattack your opponent. Maybe your opponent has launched a flank attack, then you get nervous, then you don't know what to do, then you start to defend, then you make pawn moves, then you weaken your pawn structure in front of your king even more, and many of these bad moves. That's why always you should first calculate this possible counterattack. You should always also calculate these moves that are seem to you that are not good, because maybe that particular move is the correct one, is maybe sometimes it's the only one that can make something happen in the continuation of the game. Maybe you have to see this move in order to continue the game, in order to not lose the game immediately. And while creating this impact, the whole psychology of your opponent can change, because your opponent feels secure because he launched this flank attack, he launched, as I said, this pawn breakthrough and similar ideas. When you play a counterattack, his whole psychology changes. Then he gets insecure, then he starts to blunder, then he starts to make inaccuracies and many of these bad moves that can happen in the continuation of the game. So as said, counterattack, not only defensive moves. Just when you have calculated all of the counterattack possibilities, then if that doesn't work, then start to calculate defensive moves. So these are the basic principles of counterattacks. Let's see now a couple of examples and how great players got out of some tactical mess with some great counterattack possibilities. And I wanted to show you the games that I'm showing from both perspectives, from white and black. Here it is Mikhail Tal, the legendary magician from Riga, playing with the black pieces, and here you see his opponent has launched an early flank attack with h4, and most of us would try, I don't know, something like f6, try defensive, maybe breaking this pawn structure, but this f6 would weaken the pawn structure in front of the king even further, so that's why the rook would be a very annoying piece on the g file. But not Mikhail Tal. He played, of course, on the counter attack, he played knight to b6, and okay, here we have an advanced pawn by white, h5, and now Mikhail Tal finds, of course, the counter attack. And now after knight takes on h4, here the position is totally messed up now for white, because here Mikhail Tal, as I said, didn't consider the option to play the only defensive moves. He created counterattacks. Now he can use here this c file. If you of course take, then we can simply take rook takes c2. Here we have some tactical possibilities. We can after that take even this knight on b3. We can even try this b5 pawn breakthroughs and similar ideas. So in the game, white tried after knight takes on a4, tried g6, tried his counterattack, but now Mikhail Tal finds a very nice tactic, bishop takes, and now knight takes c3. We have b takes c3, and now rook takes c3. If you take with the queen, of course, then you get the fork here on a2, so that's why white didn't take the rook. But now again, rook takes, here b3, king has to move, and now queen to d7 with the preparation to play queen on a4, and this is now game over here for white. You see, most of us in this particular position would really be nervous because we would try to crack the position, to maybe launch something like f6, rook takes on f6 and similar ideas to get more defenders around the king. Not Mikhail Tal. He considered here the counterattack and played this very nice tactical beauty. So let's see now another example. Here in the last move, black took h takes g6, and here I wanted to show you also this game from another perspective, from black's perspective. Probably black is feeling very secure here in the position, because he, in the next move, he can try e4, liberating the line, this diagonal for the dark square bishop, and maybe with b4 crack the position. Black has a perfect battery on the b file, so this would be, I think, a favorable game for black. But here white tried a counterattack, a very aggressive move. You can pause the video and try really to find now the best continuation. It's a really aggressive move. It leads into a complicated line, but it was Victor Bologan playing with the white pieces here. As I said, most of us would try something, I don't know, f3, a passive move in order to defend, or maybe something like knight to e3. If that happens, then we can maybe hide with our bishop, because the bishop is not locked by this pawns of blacks. But now you see, after b4 we have only played defensive moves, and now black has really the option to create a very nice attack on the b file, supported with this bishop. I think the game is here already over for white. But Victor Bologan, in this particular position, if he finds a counterattack, which is a great move, I think he played the move g4. That's why we should always, as I said, consider the moves that are there seem to be bad, because now after e4 it seems that this bishop is locked, but now Victor Bologan simply took. We have f takes g takes f5, we have bishop take d takes the bishop on the d3, and now queen to e6. Now we have the check, the rook has to cover, and now we have rook takes on d3. If you try knight takes f5, then it's not so good. Here, if you try rook on f6, then rook to queen to h7, attacking the king. Now if the king moves, we have again queen to h5 with the check, and now if after king to f8 we have rook to f3, and you see now we have now several tactical possibilities. If the knight moves, of course we can take, and it's very dangerous here for black. After taking the bishop, we can even try some attacks on dark squares, even rook lifts, rook on h3, and similar ideas. So as said, you see how naked now the king is, but that was all possible because Victor Bologan didn't retreat, didn't chicken out after the move rook to d3. Let's see the continuation. King to f8 was played. Now rook to h3, creating the battery on the h file. We have g takes f5, and now knight to d4. So very important, black cannot take this knight, because after giving up the bishop, now there are some problems on dark squares around the king. So that's why in the game b4 was played. Bologan's opponent tried also counterattack, but now knight to c6, getting rid of another defender. Here we have a very nice move. Of course, b takes c3. Black is hoping here to finally get this dark square, get this file open, but now Victor Bologan finds a very nice move. Rook to h8 with a check. Bishop has to take. Rook takes, and now knight to f8. Of course, you cannot play here because you get checkmated on h6, so that's why knight to g8 had to be played. But now queen to h6 anyway. We have rook on g7, and now queen takes d6. You see how dangerous now the position for black's king is. We have king to f7, now queen to e6, check, and now very nice move of rook to g8. The rook has to take here, and we have now the checkmate on e7. So great game. You see, that was all possible because in this particular position Victor Bologan finds a counterattack. Every other move is too passive, is simply losing, I think, for white here, because as I said, in the next move the threat was e4, and if you don't crack the position here on light horse, you get really messed up. So that's why here the g4 is very important. If you try, as I said, some defensive moves, this e4 is simply winning, I think, for black. You can also try maybe something like b4 to close the position on dark square, but again, this is a very important move now for black. You can maybe take again, but now I think black can regroup. Black can try something like knight to f5, cementing the knight, and also crack the position again here on the a file. Rook on a8 is the idea, and similar idea. So very nice counterattack by Victor Bologan. So this was this great move g4. Okay, let's see now another example. Again, let's see this position from black's perspective. Fine, probably black feels very secure here in this position, because now we have some discovered attack possibilities by the queen. We can take the knight. If bishop covers, then we can take. White has to recapture with the pawn, because he cannot recapture with the bishop. So many great attacking possibility black has here, but here is one problem, that white has a counterattack, but most of us wouldn't even consider the possibility to play the counterattack, because we got scared. And here the best move is, of course, to play bishop to b5. There is really a great idea about this move. If you try to cover with the bishop, then we can simply castle. After knight takes f3, we have queen takes f3. If the bishop takes, knight takes b5. But now we have a very annoying pawn here, and we can play something like bishop to g5, and also creating some dangerous threats on the e and d file. So you see how important it was to find this move bishop to b5. In the game, black tried knight from e to d7, but now king to f2. And again, it seems that you haven't calculated all of that, but it was very important for white to see this particular line. So after knight to g4, of course you don't want to hide with your king to g1, because then you lose your connection between the queen and the rook, and this is very important element, because in the next move we are trying to play rook to e1 and attack the queen, because the queen is still on the same file like the king. So that's why after knight to g4, white played king to g3. It's a very interesting move. Now we see it's a weird move, but now what to do from black's perspective? The next move is the threat to play rook to e1. In the game, knight to e5 was played, knight takes, queen takes e5, but now bishop to f4. You see how now all of the pieces of whites are working perfectly fine. Now the queen has to retreat to f6, but now we have queen to e2, we have bishop to e7, and now very important move d6. In the game, g5 was played, but now again a very nice counterattack, not retreating with the bishop, which is very important. Now bishop to e5, attacking the queen. We have bishop takes on d6, bishop takes. Now we have this discovered attack, but now very nice move, bishop to c7. If you take, then you get the fork on d5, and it will be again a game over here for black. So I said, these are the main principles of counterattacks and about the psychology. As said, don't chicken out, don't retreat always. Retreating in chess is necessary sometimes, but only if you have considered all of the other options. So first, you should always consider counterattack possibilities, and I hope you can learn something from this, because most of the time we forget about counterattacks in regular chess games. We are simply too occupied to defend ourselves, so not calculating all of these moves. And here I think these three examples were perfectly fine to describe this very important chess principle. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other basics in chess videos from the series with some more opening principles, middle game strategies, and the end game strategies. And you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen to you in a chess game. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.